All right, so today we're going deep on money.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we're diving into this book, The Uncomfortable Truth About Money by Paul Podolsky.
Yeah, he's had like every job in finance, right? Journalist, banker, even a hedge fund manager.
Exactly. And I think that gives him such a unique perspective, you know?
For sure.
He's not just telling us how to get rich. It's more about how understanding money, like really understanding it, can help us live better lives.
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, how often do you hear that?
Right. Usually it's just like make more money.
Exactly. But right away, Podolsky kind of throws this idea at us, that money. It's way more than just cash.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about it having all these different faces, like he
Mhm.
calls it. It's credit. It's all these different currencies around the world. It's the stuff we need just to survive.
Right. The necessities.
But then it's also the stuff we want, you know,
Yeah,
the fun stuff.
totally.
And it's all wrapped up in our emotions, too. Remember that story he tells about the rats?
Oh, and his Brooklyn apartment.
Yeah. He's got this young son, and suddenly financial stability isn't just about being comfortable. It's about, like, protecting his family,
Yeah.
giving them a better life.
This powerful imagery for sure.
Rats in the apartment as, like, a financial wake-up call. Makes you think.
Definitely.
And that leads into what he calls the uncomfortable truth, which is so many of us just hate talking about money.
Oh, it's like the biggest taboo.
Right. We'll share everything else online, what we ate, who we're dating, our deepest thoughts.
But our bank balance, forget it.
Totally.
Yeah.
What do you think that is? Is it because money just touches on all these insecurities we have?
I think so. Like it feels like a judgment on your worth, you know?
It's like we're all back in high school, comparing ourselves to each other.
He makes this really interesting point in the book. We'll tell people how much college debt we have. We'll post pictures of our kids.
But our salary? Nope.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Almost like revealing your salary is more personal than sharing a family photo.
Right.
What do you think that says about us?
I think Podolsky's right. It goes back to how we judge each other based on money.
Yeah.
Those societal fears around wealth, the haves and have-nots.
And it's interesting because he also talks about balancing those moments of awe with the reality of needing money to make those moments happen.
Oh, yeah. He talks about holding his kids for the first time.
Yeah, these profound, life-changing moments.
And then the next sentence, he's talking about bribing doctors in Russia to get good health care.
Such a contrast.
Highlights that tension between like wanting these amazing life experiences and needing the money to actually make them happen.
Exactly. Like, you can't just wish yourself to the top of Mount Everest.
Right? You need the gear, the guides, the permits.
Yeah.
All that costs money.
So it makes me wonder, are we sacrificing too much awe for financial stability? Or the other way around?
That's the question, isn't it?
And then to make things even more complicated, he brings up all these disruptions.
Disruptions.
Yeah, he says we're constantly hit with them, both external and internal. So externally, it's things like, oh, I don't know, some new technology comes along and changes everything.
Right, or the economy tanks.
Exactly. But then internally, it's how we react to those things.
Our emotions.
Yeah, and those can really mess things up, especially if we've got baggage from our past.
Hmm.
You know, how we grew up with money, or maybe some financial trauma.
He's not saying to become a robot, though.
No, definitely not.
More like being aware of those emotional patterns is key to making good financial decisions.
So it's like emotional intelligence meets financial literacy.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay, so then he gets into how we actually earn a living, which, let's be real, is pretty important when we're talking about money.
Right.
And he breaks it down into three things.
Okay, I'm listening.
First, figuring out what unique talents we have.
Makes sense.
Then, how those talents can be scaled, as he puts it, meaning how they can reach more people and make more money.
Uh-huh.
And lastly, understanding this is where it gets kind of intense, the castes of different industries.
Castes, like social hierarchy.
He's not talking about a rigid system, but more like the reality of how certain jobs are valued.
I see. Like a heart surgeon makes more than a barista.
Exactly. So it's about recognizing where your skills fit into that bigger picture.
Got it.
And I'll admit, this is the part where I usually zone out a little.
Oh, no. What is it?
Prices, supply and demand.
Economics 101.
But Podolsky argues, like really emphasizes, that understanding this stuff is fundamental to being financially literate.
Okay, I'm with him so far.
It's not just about knowing the price of milk at the store. It's about the price of your skills, your labor, even your savings over time.
Yeah, it all ties together.
So to me, it sounds like he's saying we need to be savvy on both sides of the equation, right? Earning a good price for what we offer ain't being smart about the prices we pay.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary.
So not just making a lot of money, but also being strategic with how you spend it.
Makes sense. Now for the part we all love.
Oh, no, don't tell
The
me.
office politics.
Yeah, can't avoid it, can we?
Nope. And Podolsky says, especially in big companies, you got to understand the stuff if you want to succeed.
It's like this whole other game with its own set of rules.
Right. He talks about being aware of those unwritten rules, the organizational structure, and even reading people's tells, those little clues about what they're really thinking.
Like being a detective at work.
Mhm.
Figuring out who has the power, who to align yourself with, how to handle those difficult personalities.
He actually shares some pretty great stories from his own career.
Oh, I bet he's got some good ones.
Yeah.
Because reading about it in a textbook is one thing, but hearing real-life examples,
Yeah,
that's where it clicks.
totally agree.
Okay, before we go down that rabbit hole, there's one more thing he really hammers home.
What's that?
The emergency fund,
Ah, yes, the rainy day fund.
which I'll admit has always felt kind of vague to me. Like, how much is enough? What exactly should it cover?
Podolsky says straight up, build this before you even think about investing.
Really?
Yeah, he uses this phrase, risk-free position, which really stuck with me.
Correct.
It's about having that cushion so that when life throws you a curveball, and it will, it doesn't derail your entire financial plan.
It's like building a solid foundation before you start building the house itself.
Exactly. And speaking of curveballs, he tells the story about lending money to a friend in Russia, and things went, well, not great.
Oh, no. What happened?
It's kind of a cautionary tale about boundaries and how even good intentions can backfire when it comes to lending money.
Especially without really assessing the risks.
Right. So it's not just about having the emergency fund for ourselves, but being wise about how we use it to help others, too.
That's a really good point. Wow, we've covered a lot already.
I know, right? And we're just getting started.
Good thing this is a deep dive then. We've got plenty more to unpack from the uncomfortable truth about money.
I'm ready for it.
Me too. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and explore even more of Podolsky's insights. So we've talked about like the emotional side of money, the emergency fund, even office politics. Where does Podolsky take us next?
He gets into this whole world of central banking, which sounds dry, I know, but...
Oh yeah, central banks. They always seemed kind of mysterious to me, like these powerful forces controlling things, but I never really understood how...
Right, it's like they're making decisions that affect my life, but behind this curtain.
Exactly.
Well, he uses this really good analogy, the Rio Grande River, to explain how money actually flows through the economy.
Okay, I'm intrigued. The Rio Grande and money.
Yeah, so think of it like this. The Rio Grande, it ebbs and flows, right? And that affects everything along its banks.
Makes sense.
Central banks, they're like controlling the flow of money, like opening and closing dams on the river.
So if they print more money, it's like opening the dam and flooding the river.
Exactly. Too much water, things get flooded. That's inflation.
And if they restrict the flow of money, it's like closing the dam, things dry up.
Exactly. The economy slows down. Podolsky's point is, if we understand what central banks are doing, like interest rates, for example, we can kind of get a sense of the bigger economic picture.
It's like having a weather forecast for your finances then, knowing which way the wind's blowing.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of making smart decisions, he then moves into investing.
Ah, yes, the stock market.
Well, it's more than just stocks. He talks about building a diversified portfolio, meaning spreading your investments across different things.
Like stocks, bonds, real estate.
Exactly. It's that old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
But he goes even deeper, talks about different investment philosophies.
Oh, like value investing, growth investing.
Exactly. And how to figure out which one aligns with your goals, your risk tolerance, all that.
See, this is where I get lost. I kind of just follow what the experts say. Is he saying we should be more hands-on?
Yeah, he really emphasizes developing your own investment philosophy.
Meaning?
Understanding the principles behind different approaches, doing your own research, not just blindly following someone else's advice.
So become financially literate, basically.
And he cautions against those get-rich-quick schemes, too.
Oh yeah, those are everywhere.
He's all about thinking critically, taking ownership of your decisions.
I like that. It fits with that whole self-reliance thing he keeps talking about.
Totally. Okay, now on to the topic everyone loves to think about.
Let me guess. Retirement.
You got it. But he makes it sound less scary, actually.
Oh, good, because that's always felt like this huge looming thing to me.
He boils it down to a simple formula even.
Okay, hit me with it.
You take your savings, divide it by how many years you expect to live in retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And if that number is more than your annual expenses, boom, you're good.
So much simpler than those online calculators with a million questions,
Right. But of course, there are caveats, like gotta factor in inflation.
which basically eats away at your savings over time.
Yep. And longevity. People are living longer, so gotta plan for that too.
Plan for the best, prepare for the worst, right?
Exactly. And he even brings up this interesting point about how those of us who are financially secure, maybe we have a responsibility to help others in our network who are struggling.
Oh, that's a good point. It's not just about taking care of ourselves. It's about lifting others up, too.
And that kind of ties into his whole message about balance. It's not just about money, it's about well-being, happiness, all of it.
Right, because what's the point of having a ton of money if you're miserable?
Exactly. He talks about how he used to be so focused on success, on climbing the ladder, that he neglected his health, his relationships.
We all get caught up in the hustle sometimes.
It's about creating a sustainable lifestyle, one that supports all aspects of your life.
Financial, physical, emotional.
It's all connected. And he even gets personal, talks about how he made mistakes along the way, learned from them.
It's good to hear that even someone who's achieved financial success has had their share of struggles.
Makes it feel more relatable, right?
Definitely.
Well,
So what about those moments of awe he keeps mentioning? We haven't really gotten into that yet.
oh, that's the best part. And it ties everything together beautifully.
All right, I'm ready. Let's hear it. All right, so we've covered a lot: financial stability, investments, even central banks. But what about those moments of awe Podolsky keeps talking about?
That's what makes this book so interesting, It's not just about the practical stuff.
Yeah, it feels almost counterintuitive, right? Like, shouldn't we be focused on, I don't know, budgeting, saving, all that?
Podolsky actually says those moments of awe, those experiences that kind of take your breath away, make you feel connected to something bigger.
Uh-huh.
He says those are essential to a truly fulfilling life.
Really? So it's not about choosing one or the other. It's about finding that balance.
Exactly. Financial stability isn't just the end goal. It's more like the foundation that lets us chase those experiences that make life really meaningful.
Okay, I think I see what you mean. It's like you need a certain level of security to even have the freedom to pursue those things.
Right. You can't just wish yourself to the top of Mount Everest. You need the resources to actually make it happen.
That's a good point. It's like financial stability gives you the option to say yes to opportunities.
Whether it's travel, learning a new skill, or even just having the peace of mind to pursue a creative passion without stressing about bills.
Makes sense. But then he also says something kind of surprising
Hmm.
about how wealth can actually limit our capacity for awe.
Oh, yeah, that's fascinating.
Like if you can have anything you want, that sense of wonder, of appreciation, it kind of fades away.
It's like there's something to be said for having limitations, for having to work towards something.
That's deep. So how do we actually cultivate those moments of awe then? Does he give us like a step-by-step guide?
He says we have to be intentional about it.
Uh,
Seek out experiences that push us out of our comfort zones, that connect us with something bigger than ourselves.
Okay, so travel, maybe?
Travel could be one, yeah. But it could also be something simpler, like attending a concert, spending time in nature.
Got it. Making it a priority, not just something we squeeze in if we have time.
Right. And then, he says, be present in those moments. Really savor them.
It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, to be thinking about a million things at once.
And then we miss those opportunities for awe that are right there in front of us.
So it's not just about having the experience, it's about actually experiencing it.
Exactly. And that goes back to balance, too. Not just between financial well-being and life satisfaction, but balance within those moments of awe themselves.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
He tells this story about getting his first big bonus at the bank. Describes feeling excited, accomplished, but also anxious, like it could all disappear.
I can relate to that. Like the fear of losing what you've gained almost overshadows the joy of achieving it.
Exactly. And he says true fulfillment comes from finding that balance between savoring those moments of success, but also recognizing that they're fleeting.
Enjoy the ride, but don't get too attached to the destination.
Right. And that leads into his point about aligning your work with your values.
Oh yeah, he talks about leaving the hedge fund world, even though he was making a ton of money.
Because it just didn't feel right anymore. He felt like a cog in a machine, sacrificing his own fulfillment to climb the ladder.
It's like, what's the point of all that money if you're miserable doing the work to get it?
Exactly. So he encourages us to ask ourselves those tough questions. What kind of impact do I want to make? What legacy do I want to leave behind?
It's about finding work that's not just a job, but something you actually care about,
Mm.
something that aligns with your values.
And that can lead to a much deeper sense of fulfillment, both personally and financially.
Absolutely. And this brings us to, I think, the most powerful message of the whole book, embracing the present moment.
Oh, yes, he talks a lot about that.
It's easy to forget, with all the worries about the future, the regrets about the past.
But he reminds us, life is unpredictable. Our time is limited. So savor each day, each experience, as if it were your last.
It's like a call to mindfulness, to gratitude,
Let go of the anxiety, the what ifs, and just be present.
because true wealth isn't about stuff. It's about those lived experiences, those moments that make life truly rich.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, I think we've done a pretty good job of unpacking the uncomfortable truth about money.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, from practical tips to those bigger philosophical questions about what it all means.
Hopefully, everyone listening has gotten something out of it, something they can apply to their own lives.
Remember, it's not about blindly following someone else's advice. It's about understanding money for yourself, aligning your goals with your values.
Creating a life that feels rich and meaningful, full of those moments of awe that make it all worthwhile.
And on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week with another fascinating topic. Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep striving to live a life of purpose and abundance.